Good evening, Fin fans, and welcome back to another episode of AT Fins News. In this episode, we're going to be breaking down the Miami Dolphins 33-17 defeat to the San Francisco 49ers. So without further ado, let's just get right into it, shall we? So the first thing I'm going to say about this game, it was extremely frustrating to see the type of quarterback play we had yesterday. I'm not going to get on this stream and just bash Tua the whole show. But I will talk about him first. That was probably the worst quarterback performance Tua has ever had in his 3 years as the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback. I don't even care when he was a rookie. I've never seen a performance like this from our starting quarterback in the last 3 years. Because if you look at the replay the game and rewatch the videos, we had wide receivers wide open, crossing the middle of the field on the outside of the field, wide open, and he was just misthrowing receivers. He was throwing them too high. He was making Jalen Waddle have to stop, jump in there to try to even catch the ball, which come up short. One play, he made Jalen Waddle turn his whole body around into kind of re-injured a body part of his, so he had to come out of the game until after halftime. He tried to tough it out and come back. So Tua was just off yesterday, guys. Like I said, worst performance I've ever seen him play. I know it sucks because it came at the worst time. We knew these last 6 games were going to be a big test for not only Tua but our team in general, and for him to lay an egg on the very first game of this 6-game these 6 tough games, it's kind of disheartening. But when I first was going to make this video, I was just going to kind of go off on the team, how they let us down. They continue to let us down. But after taking a step back, my takeaway from the game in its entirety, sometimes teams just have bad games. I know our team, the Dolphins, have done this year in and year out where they kind of fall apart at the end. So as a fan, you just think that's what's going to happen just like every other year. But I still believe that this team is different in the sense we have talent all throughout the field. It's not like the 49ers defense completely just shut our offense down because our receivers were running wide open. It was more so the quarterback couldn't get them the ball. I feel like overall, I know our line didn't play great, but they held up the best they could with having 2 of our starting tackles out of this game. I mean, they did as much as they could, in my opinion. I know there are still pressures. I know there are still sacks. Tua just didn't look comfortable in the pocket all day. Ever since that first play of the game when it went for a 75-yard touchdown to Trent Sherfield, he never looked comfortable throughout the whole game. The only time he started looking a little comfortable, I would say, is in the middle of the fourth quarter. I mean, he looked serviceable, but other than that, if you notice, he kept patting the ball. Like, he just wasn't in rhythm. Overthrowing receivers. I think maybe he was pressing too much. We all know how close Mike McDaniel and Tua are, how close they've become throughout the season, and I think he knew how big of a game it was for Mike McDaniel, and he just wanted to, because Mike McDaniel was the coach that brought that confidence back into Tua that he can be a quarterback in this league. He wanted to return the favor to Mike McDaniel to beat he pretty much he's been with Kyle Shanahan for 6-7 years. I'm sure Mike McDaniel wanted to beat him and show him what he was made of, kind of. And I think because of that, Tua started pressing the issue, and that's why you kind of see those overthrown balls that were right open in the middle of the zone. He was just overthrowing them wide open, too high, because that's holding the ball too tight, pressing. So you usually get those high throws whenever you're not comfortable in the pocket and not in rhythm and just not as relaxed as you usually are. You hold that ball a little too tight and he throws it too high. He floats it over. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to attribute to. See, now, if this becomes a trend and we see it with the Chargers, if you see not as good quarterback play and our team falling apart and just keep losing games, then there's going to be an issue. But for now, I'm going to take the more positive approach. I think it was just a bad game overall. I don't think Mike McDaniel had a great play calling day, even though there was receivers wide open. There was some questionable calls, accepting penalties instead of declining penalties to make it 2nd and 8 instead of 3rd and 3. And then they got the first down anyway whenever they went and scored right before halftime. I didn't like that decision. The 4th and 2 at our own 18 to 20 yard line late in the game, I thought it was really questionable. We got it with the Tyreek Hill play, so I'm not going to hold it against them. But there was things here and there, calling timeouts when we probably shouldn't have. So, I mean, I think everyone it was such a big game. We have a young team. They kind of pressed in general. I mean, even a lot of people I've seen on social media and on Twitter are coming after our defense. I mean, I get it. We had Brock Purdy in. He's a rookie, Mr. Irrelevant pick. And he pretty much led his team to victory. But I feel the only reason we were in that game late was because of our defense. I mean, if you look just at the second half, we're down already. Our defense holds the 49ers to a punt. The very first possession of the third quarter, what happens? Tua throws an interception. They're already down like at the 30-yard line. And all we can hope for is pretty much to hold them to a field goal to make it a 10-point game, not let the game get out of hand. What did the defense do? They stopped them and made them get a field goal. Right after that, the Dolphins get the ball again. What happens? Tua throws another interception. They're down to like the 18-yard line at this time. And we cannot go down 17 at that point, especially the way our offense was playing and moving the ball downfield. And what does our defense do? Hold them to another field goal. So we're only down 13. We could have easily been down 20 plus if our defense didn't show up. I know I would have liked to see the Dolphins defense get off the field on third downs. I mean, the 49ers had their way on third downs against this defense, and I didn't expect that, especially with the rookie quarterback in there. But other than that, guys, I mean, they kept us in the game. I mean, there's nothing. They got a turnover. They had some sacks. They had pressures on Purdy. So I can't sit here and say the reason why we lost was because our defense didn't step up when they needed to. They're the ones that kept us in the game and was just keeping us in the game until our offense can get going. And then in the fourth quarter, Tua started kind of getting some rhythm. You see that deep ball to Tyreek to make a 6-point game. Our defense does its job and holds them. So we get that possession, and that's when, I mean, we just couldn't finish it. I thought for sure once they got that 4th and 2 at our own 18-yard line, I was like, okay, the Tua's going to lead them down the field, and they're going to score a game-winning touchdown. They're going to be up 1. That's what I thought, but it just didn't work out that way this time. Sometimes, I mean, your team just loses the game. Doesn't matter how good your team is or how dominant your team is. They ran into a good team. They ran into a better team that Sunday. You got to give credit to the 49ers, but you also have to think about it if you're trying to be an optimistic Dolphin fan. If you're going to tell me Tua probably had his worst game as a quarterback in the NFL yesterday, and going in the last drive of the fourth quarter for the Miami Dolphins, they were only down 6 and had a chance to win the game against a really good San Francisco 49ers team and a really good San Francisco 49ers defense, best in the NFL. I mean, I would have taken it because knowing that our team was that close to one, if not the best, one of the best teams in the NFC, I'm still not going to take that away from the Eagles because they're playing really good football right now. But if they're the second best team in the NFC, to have your quarterback and leader play the worst game of his career, so inaccurate. Like one of his best gifts is being accurate, they say. So for him to be throwing the ball all over the field and being just playing, he wasn't playing mistake-free football. He was turning the ball over to the 49ers, and us only be down 6 late in the fourth quarter with about 7 minutes left. I mean, who would have thought that could have been possible even last year or the year before when if Tua had a horrible game, we're getting blown out by 40. If Tua, with the team we had in previous years, if Tua was played as bad as he did yesterday, we'd have lost by 30, 40. I mean, it's just, for sure that would have happened. We've seen it. But for us to take away any positives, no, he can play such a bad game and we're that close to winning. That's just a tribute to how good our team is, how much potential this team has and how much star power this team has. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys, the season's completely over. I think the game on Sunday Night Football, primetime, is going to be a huge game. From the beginning, at the beginning of the year when I broke down the schedule and seeing how many wins and losses we had, I never thought we were going to sweep the West Coast. I always thought we were going to go 1-1. I didn't know which game we were going to win or which game we were going to lose, but I always assumed we were going to go 1-1 at best case scenario. And now we're going to have to. I mean, these next two games against the Chargers and against the Bills, I mean, we need to go 2-0, guys. There's no questions asked. If this team wants to have Super Bowl hopes and aspirations, they're going to have to go 2-0 in the next two games. They should go into LA and beat the Chargers and then taking that momentum to go play Buffalo and just see where the chips may fall. I mean, it's going to be on primetime as well. It is a Saturday night game, so they're going to have to – they're staying in California for a whole week. They play Sunday Night Football at 5:20. Then they fly back home. They probably don't get home till Monday afternoon once they're done with, getting all their luggage, baggage, getting home. And then they have a Saturday game, so it's going to be a quick turnaround, but that's why it's the NFL. They get paid the big bucks. I mean, they're professionals. This team with this talent should be able to handle it. And I just don't see our offense playing as bad as they did collectively. Not only collectively, the coach and the quarterback together. I mean, they were both off. I think they were just pressing a little bit. So I expect them to have a big bounce back game against the Chargers, guys. I mean, I'll save that for our preview show. But if they have a bad game like they did against the 49ers, then it'd be kind of time to hit that panic button. But as far as right now goes, just relax, guys. We still got a lot of football to go. If before the season, if someone told you the Miami Dolphins would be 8-4, I mean, you would take that. I mean, it's better than being 500, trying to fight for a playoff spot and being behind so many teams. I mean, we're still in the driver's seat. We still control our own destiny. They just got to win. I mean, they got to go start this Sunday, beat the Chargers, and then go to Buffalo and see what happens. Once Buffalo's over, I mean, you got 3 more games. I mean, I don't see any reason why this team should collapse and not win another game after. I mean, even though they had such a bad performance against the 49ers, they were still in that game against a tough, top-rated defense in the league. First in scoring, first in passing, first in rushing. I mean, they're first in a lot of the main categories. So, and that's no excuse for Tua. Tua should have had a better game. But what positive you can take out of it, their DBs couldn't cover our receivers, guys. I mean, they couldn't. Our receivers were wide open. The majority of the game, they were wide open. We just couldn't hit them when it counted. Even Jeff Wilson burnt the linebacker. He would have been a touchdown when Tua overthrew him. I mean, just a little bit of pressing. I mean, he could have floated in, hit him right in the chest, and Jeff Wilson was gone. There was no safety help. That linebacker wasn't covering Jeff Wilson. He had him beat by 4 or 5 yards already. He was gone, but just that's another sign of just Tua pressing too much, not accurate, not having it. And guys, quarterbacks have bad games. If it becomes a trend, like I said, then the next episode we'll talk about it and I'll voice my concerns because I mean I'm gonna tell you guys how it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Tua had an awful game. He was one of the main contributors of why we lost this game. Hands down, there's no sugarcoating it. But we look for him to bounce back. I look for Mike McDaniel to bounce back. I look for this team in general to bounce back because I don't believe they're gonna get punched in the mouth and stay down. I believe they're gonna get back up and keep fighting. And we'll see where the chips may fall at the end of the season. But I expect us to go out there in LA this week and show them who the real Miami Dolphins are. Other positives we can take about our defense. Christian Wilkins dominated on defense. He was all over the field. He was even stalking down wide receivers 10 yards, 15 yards down the field and just cracking them from behind. I mean, his motor is something special, guys. I mean, we're going to have to pay him a handsome amount of money and for him to stay because he's asserting himself as one of the best defensive tackles in the league. I think he had something like 13 tackles for the game, which is crazy for a defensive tackle. Zach Seiler also dominated. We should have stopped Prudy out in that 4th-and-1 quarterback sneak. He had him bear hugged, but his team couldn't help him. I mean, he was getting double-teamed, bear hugging the quarterback, and our defense couldn't just push him back. They just let him fall forward, but he was also dominant. Bradley Chubb is starting to assert himself, so there is some positive to take out of it, guys. But I mean, as Dolphin fans, guys, I will tell you, just don't get so down. I mean, we'll come back next week. Our offense will show up, and it'll be a whole different story, in my opinion. But other than that, guys, if you're new to the channel, if you can please hit that like button just so it can be reached by more of us in the Dolphins community. And if you are new to the channel and you like the content, if you can just please hit that subscribe button so we can grow this channel organically like we have been for the last year. But other than that, guys, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sticking with me. And we'll see you on Friday. Fins up. I'm out. Peace.